Wait, I told you had to start with a story today.
Yes.
You have such a good story. I wanted you to put on Instagram and you're like, no, we're saving it for the
You had
podcast.
to save it for the podcast, but we did have an open house on Friday, and Emily, she announced it to a group of people, and I was like basically giving this presentation.
I was like, everyone has to hear this story. And I
Okay.
made groups. It was like 80 people at this open house.
I was like, oh God. She put me on the spot. But I'll just tell it on the podcast because I really think it's something to share.
Yes.
So I moved back into my house after getting renovations done for 7 months.
Horrible.
And, we had a lot of things to get. So, of course, I was ordering off of Amazon like wild. So I get a notification from Amazon that 3 of my packages are downstairs, and I'm in Philadelphia. So you got to get your packages quick. So
Because you have porch pirates. People might not know.
Exactly.
That's a big thing.
Yes, big thing. So I run downstairs, I open the door, there's only 2 packages, and there's a woman out there who says, that man just stole your package, and he's on a bike, he's right up there, you can catch him. I was like, what? She was like, yeah, you can catch him. He's not that far away. She was like, I would come with you, I would follow you, but I have kids in the car. And I was like, okay.
But she's like, go do it.
She was like, go do it. And I didn't even hesitate, I put my shoes on. I felt so empowered by this woman. So I sprint after this guy on a bike. Sprint.
How far down did you chase
It was
him?
2.5 blocks.
Wow.
He
Towards South Street?
Towards South Street, yeah. He was not riding his bike fast. So I was sprinting and I was wearing flip-flops too. So I was clap, clap, clap on the street. And I yell out, hey, sir, excuse me, they're dishes. You don't want them. And he stops his bike and turns to me. And he's like, okay, help me get the package out of this bag. And he gives me my package back.
After you help him.
After I help him.
That's my favorite part.
And I said, thank you so much.
The best part that you're thanking and helping him for
Thank
stealing
you
your shit.
so much. But I really, okay, listen, it worked, and it could have gone a bunch of different ways.
It's slightly dangerous. What you
It's definitely dangerous. Oh, and then when I got the package, I turned around and I was walking back to my house, very proud. And the woman who told me to go, she was driving down the street and she was like, you got him. She was the most empowering angel. I called her my Amazon angel now in my head. She's going to be with me forever. But the thing that I learned from this, which, maybe is a good lesson, might not be, is that if you talk to people about whether something is going to be helpful for them,
you're like, I'm giving you a help. I'm helping you.
I'm helping you because you actually do not want my package. It's going to be annoying. You're going to get back to your house and you're going to be pissed that you stole my package. And so if you approach things, right? Because I had no leg to stand on. This guy could have ran away. I am a tiny little, I had nothing going for me.
You stand no chance. Yeah.
No chance. Besides helping him. And so I really learned this lesson that if you approach something in this way of if you approach it by saying, this is how I'm going to help you, it really can help the situation.
Well, and isn't that what you're trained to do when they talk about if you're in a situation where you're kidnapped, especially assaulted, to say no, I'm not going to tell anyone it was you,
Yes.
let me help you, you're right, you're supposed to just play along and give, which is I know feels fucked up,
yeah,
counterproductive, but there is a psychological component here.
Yes.
It's such a good story, Jen.
Thank you so much. And listen, I don't know if this is something that everyone should take with them because there might actually be dangerous situations.
Yeah, I don't know if everyone should do that.
I don't think everyone should do this, but I felt so proud of myself.
I wish we could find your Amazon angel and give her swag.
I would love to find my Amazon angel. And let me tell you, I think if she wasn't there, like telling me like I can do this, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. Oh, because you'd never have thought to.
I never would have thought to, and I wouldn't have believed that I could do it.
Yeah.
She really made me feel like this was something that I could accomplish,
I love that.
which was so empowering. And so I am now going to internalize her. She is
Mhm.
now in my mind. I can do
Yes.
this. I can take this on. So
Yes.
that's my story. I just thought it was really important to share.
Well, okay. So Jill, listener Jill, asked in, if you could change your age, would you choose to be younger, older, or stay the same?
Um, would we then continue to get older?
Oh, yeah. She didn't write that in. I think we can make up
Yeah.
our own rules here.
Okay. I think I would stay the same.
I would stay the same. Well, could I choose to have my stomach when I was 20 that I could eat cheese all the time? Because I have now, my belly's very sensitive. So I love this age. I'd happily stay this age, but I wouldn't mind having some of my body, not like changing how it looks, but just how it functions. I'd like to be able to eat
Yes.
more mozzarella, is what I'm
Yes.
saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me tell you, speaking of mozzarella,
You ate an entire charcuterie board to yourself yesterday.
I had it for lunch and I had it for dinner.
How bad did your stomach hurt today?
Horrible.
So
Really,
don't
really
you wish
bad.
you had your 20-year-old stomach?
I don't know if even my 20-year-old stomach would be able to handle the amount of cheese I ate yesterday.
Can
Like,
we talk about Maya, our amazing intern, who unfortunately is no longer with us because she had such a better opportunity, frankly. She should never
she
have
did.
stayed with us when she got this offer. She did, but was like just the best fucking intern ever. And we were
Ever.
at lunch. She flew out to come to our open house and to hang out with us and meet us in person. It was just like the best experience ever. And we're at lunch, and she was saying how someone, like, people were calling her Nikki.
Yes.
And what'd she
Yes.
say?
I don't
I
know.
can't believe people are mistaking me for someone in my 30s.
Oh, yeah.
Nikki was like, ah.
She was like, "Oh no, I shouldn't have said that." She was like, I put my foot in my mouth way too many times." Or was that you? Who said I put
No,
my
no.
foot in
Somebody else asked me to comment on something, and I said, you know what? As someone who often
Oh,
puts their foot in
yes.
their mouth, I won't be commenting on this. I don't
Yes.
remember what it's about. All right. But today's episode is about conditional versus unconditional love. And we talked about this in another episode. I can't even remember which one. And a lot of people wrote in and asked us to expand further. So I'm going to start with you, Jen. What does it mean to love unconditionally?
Unconditional love is affection without any limitations and love without any conditions.
Mhm.
Um, it's love without any strings attached and love you offer freely. And you don't base it off of what someone does for you in return. You just love them and want nothing more than their happiness. So,
Yeah.
unconditional love in its simplest form is completely selfless. I think one of the reasons why this was so like fascinating to people, or so many people had so many questions about it, is because I think the ultimate question is, can love ever be completely selfless, completely? And it's kind of the same question. I actually wrote a paper on this when I was in college, about altruism, and the question was, can you ever be 100% altruistic?
Yeah.
um, and the answer is no, right? You always get something,
Yes.
even if you're not intending, even if you're
it's
not
ego.
intending to, right? You get something from giving. And so unconditional love, I think, you know, we want it to be true in all forms. We want there to be this concept of unconditional love, of this completely selfless love. Um, but in the end, there is no love that can be 100% selfless. Now, when we talk about unconditional love in relationships, the only unconditional, and I'll put this in quotes, unconditional love, the love that can be as selfless as possible, um, in a healthy relationship, is from parent to child.
Mhm.
that parents are meant to give to their kids this love without any strings attached.
Yeah.
Um, that creates a level of safety, security, mental health, stability within a child to be garnering this unconditional love from their parents.
Yeah. Um, uh, Somebody had said, "Can we ask you to call some BS on unconditional versus conditional love?" One of the things I say is the idea that unconditional love means having no boundaries. Okay, I love my daughter unconditionally, and I need breaks from her. And
Yes.
I don't want her to wear all my stuff and use all my stuff. I'm allowed to say no to her. So unconditional love does not mean that you don't say no and that you don't have boundaries. It means that no matter what my daughter does, including fucking murder someone, I'm still going to love her. And that is a hard concept. Does that mean I wouldn't hold her accountable or make her believe that justice is needed for something? It means that I love her absolutely no matter what. And she does not owe me anything back. That my daughter can turn 18 and she can leave and she can never talk to me again. And I don't stop loving her because she's my daughter and she gets to choose to do that.
Mm,
There's really no strings attached. And that is very, very difficult to hear.
yeah, it is. I also think it's difficult to hear that unconditional love isn't present in other relationships,
Yeah.
right? Other types of relationships. I think there's this idea that when you find the one, when you find someone romantically that completes you, once again, I'm using air quotes, um, that there should be this unconditional love. And that is simply not true.
Yeah.
There should be conditions on romantic love.
So someone said, can love be conditional in marriage? Asking from wife to husband perspective. All adult relationships have conditions. If my spouse abuses me, do I leave? If my spouse cheats, do I leave? What are the rules and contracts of my marriage? I have conditions of any adult relationship I'm in. Now, I may still have deep love for this person, but keeping the relationship is the conditional part, right? And if
Hmm.
someone treats you horribly, you should not stay. You should go, including your parents.
Yeah. And that I think is like, there is a little bit of a problem with holding this idea of unconditional love as like putting it on a pedestal in a way,
Mm.
because I think so often it can be used, to maintain kind of like an abusive, toxic relationship. Well, if you loved me, then you would do this.
Mm.
And if you loved me, then you wouldn't leave,
And
right?
if I love them, I'll stay.
And if I love them, I'll stay, right? And so that, which I think very much connects to that idea of like love without boundaries, is unconditional love. Like, no, you need strings and you need conditions on romantic love, because your ability to be in a safe, healthy, connected relationship allows you to actually give love to the other person. And it should not be used as a tool to control someone, to abuse someone, to maintain any sort of toxic environment. I think it's also sometimes used like as a way to neglect our own needs in a relationship. That, oh, if you loved me, you would always put me first. No, you have to take care of yourself in order to be able to give in a relationship. And that's why I think this episode's so important, is because it's a lot of myth busting here
Yeah.
to be able to say that unconditional love is not present. I'm sorry, my watch was talking into,
What
did you
did it
hear that?
say to you?
It said it said 1:34 PM.
It's just letting you know.
I know, but like, why now?
Has it ever talked to you before?
Never.
Fucking weird.
Yes, it's speaking to me.
Creepy deepy.
But anyway, I just wanted, this whole episode is myth busting. Like this idea of unconditional love and how it shouldn't be present in these other places, that like there needs to be conditions, there needs to be strengths, and it should not be used as a tool to control other people.
Someone said, how to tell if you have unconditional love for your spouse. I get so annoyed sometimes. Unconditional love, first of all, doesn't mean you won't get annoyed or frustrated. I get annoyed and frustrated with my child. I'm a human fucking being.
Right.
But one of the terms I love that Terry Real has coined is normal marital hatred. It is actually quite normal to hate your spouse from time to time. And it does not mean anything is wrong with your relationship. If you hate your spouse all the fucking time, that's a problem. If you're annoyed all the time, if you're frustrated and critical and talk down to your partner all the time, that's a problem. If you find yourself looking for relationships in other places because you are frustrated with your spouse, that's a problem. But you're allowed to be annoyed at your spouse. You just are.
Yes. And once again, you don't have to have unconditional love for your spouse. It's actually not healthy.
Yeah, you should have conditions in your relationship. It's a good thing. I
Yes.
wonder why, you know what's funny? So why do you think this is such a big myth? Why do you think we're all so obsessed with unconditional love?
I think that the media and society has
Media.
portrayed, right? Media always has portrayed love in this way.
I'm also wondering if there's like, so if the love, we were told from a very early age, our parents give us unconditional love. They love us no matter what. Your parents love you no matter what. And I think that like, so from such a young age, there's like an anchor of safety in that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Right. I love that. Something Brene Brown talks about in her book, The Gift of Imperfections, when she talks about shame, is that she carries a piece of paper in her wallet that has like the names of like 5 people, which is like her husband or her kid, like the people that's like, no matter what happens, they will still love me. And I think that that's attachment as well.
Mm-hmm. And it does almost conflict with attachment theory in a little
Yeah.
bit, right? Like where we develop our idea of attachment to another person from our parents, from our, caregivers growing up. And we take that attachment and we bring it into our romantic attachments. And so I think if we developed this like idea of attachment is like through this unconditional love, and we kind of take it into our romantic relationships, which we do, just like it's like natural for us. um it's not going to always match. It isn't going
Mhm.
to match, right? It isn't going to be the same thing because there needs to be conditions in your relationship,
Yeah.
right? You can love and you can give a ton of love, but it's going to be impossible for it to be completely selfless and selfless love, and it shouldn't be selfless love.
Mm.
You shouldn't neglect your own needs in your romantic relationships. The reason why it's so selfless when you're a child is because you don't have the ability to take care of yourself,
Yeah.
right? You didn't make a choice to come into the world. You need that unconditional love in order to grow, in order to thrive.
Yeah. And it is so wild. And it also just like the biological component, right? Like, I mean, I've talked about this before. I had bad postpartum. I really struggled with feeling anything towards Millie.
Yeah.
Um, but the biological component of keeping someone alive and being their lifeline is so strong.
Mm,
Like I would have done anything to fucking kill for her, but I still was struggling with like how I felt about her and felt about the entire process.
yeah. Well, can I ask you, because I'm not a mother, um, does the
Don't
idea
listen.
what?
Louis and
That's
Nellie
true.
would
I'm
not agree
sorry.
with
You're
that
right.
statement. I'm just gonna
You're
let you
right.
know. And as we come towards Mother's Day, I want to put a very good reminder that or this episode came out after Mother's Day. So
Yeah,
just kidding. But as
yeah.
you have Mother's Day, I just want to do a reminder that if you care for someone, you can consider yourself a mother and you deserve to be honored as such. Okay, continue.
Thank you. Okay, I am a mother. I have
Not a
2,
human.
not to a human. But does the idea, like, I'm just wondering for you if like the idea of unconditional love while you're going through postpartum, like did those 2 like does it feel like this level of like pressure or like
I think the hardest part was that everyone kept saying to me, "Aren't you so happy? Aren't you so in
yeah,
love?" And I didn't feel those things.
yeah,
And so then I just felt like shit.
yeah.
But the one nice thing was that after Emily was born, I looked at my husband because everyone tells you how you're going to feel, right? That being said, I think that if I had a second child, I think I would feel those things immediately because now I know how fucking awesome it is. And I
Yes.
know how, like, I do think it would actually be much easier for me to access those feelings than I did the
Yeah.
first time. The thing that was amazing was that, there was all this pressure, right? You've seen every movie about how somebody has this baby and they're so in love and love at first sight. And lots of people do have that feeling. I just wasn't one of them. But I looked at Aaron and I'm like, do you feel anything? And he was like, nothing, do you? And I was like, whoa, okay. So I had like also this normalization that I was like, all right, we're both figuring this out. There's a tiny little human here that's making little dinosaur noises. I
Right.
don't really know what to do and think about. I
Dinosaur
felt
noise.
like that. I felt very anxious about getting home to the dog. Like, I don't know. Like there was things that happened. But now how I feel is like, oh my God, like Millie could, punch me in the face 1 million times. I'm like, oh God, you were so cute.
Yes, yes. Well, also, when you first had Millie, like your life changed dramatically.
Yes.
And when you have, another child, like you're already,
My
you
life
know,
started kind of lame. So I already moved out to the suburbs,
right, like you know what I mean? Like
fell
there's
alone.
such a right.
I'm
There's
fine.
there's such a transition that I can imagine happens with the first one.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, let's get into more questions. I'm trying
Yeah.
to,
Okay. How about this one?
yeah, tell me.
Coping with my parents' conditional love. They haven't spoken to me for a year since I moved out.
Oh, first I just want to
Say move in with me.
validate. Yeah, move in.
I'll talk to you. We love
Come
you.
on over.
Please let me.
And just like validate the fact that that's painful.
Yeah.
And I think this also comes into play. Like if you had a parent that their love was very conditional, and so you have a strained relationship with them, or your relationship is just like very different, that oftentimes when we set boundaries with them to say, like, oh, I'm not going to see them on this holiday, or I'm not going to talk to them, or our relationship is just not a parent child relationship. Um, you'll have other people around you who will be like, oh, well, you only get one parent, right?
Yeah.
That's your dad, that's your mom, there's a lot of societal pressure around the relationship that you should be having with your parent. And I believe that that comes from other people's perceptions of like, oh, your parent must have given you this level of unconditional love, throughout your life. And so you made the choice to set a boundary with your parent because you weren't receiving the unconditional love that you needed from
Mhm.
them. And I just want to validate that that's okay, like, and it's also important for you to take care of yourself. Your relationship with your parents doesn't have to look like, a parent-child relationship is how that's portrayed by society, by the media. You get to do what you need to do to take care of your mental health in this situation. Sometimes that takes a really long time to figure out.
Yeah.
And so I would just say have a ton of grace with yourself, have a ton of empathy, compassion for yourself during this process. It is a grief. You go through a bit of a grief when you get to the point where you realize that you needed so much more unconditional love from your parent that you didn't receive. And you have to almost grieve the relationship that you never had.
Yeah.
And I think it also means setting boundaries with other people who are going to say the things like, oh, you only have one parent. You should talk to them. That you get to decide what's right for you in your relationship with them.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one. Somebody wrote in saying, can you talk about conditional versus unconditional love in the context of in-laws or extended family? It's no unconditional love.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing.
There might be amazing deep love. There might be very close connection and very close attachment. I am not saying that you cannot have unbelievably close relationships with in-laws or extended family. But typically, there's not unconditional love. That being said, when we say these things, of course, there's someone who truly has experienced unconditional love
Right.
for someone else that's not their kids, right? Like, I am not going to say that that has never happened once in the entire galaxy of the fucking world. That would be ridiculous.
Right.
But in general, it's not the norm.
And also, if we think about unconditional love, like as a selfless love without boundaries,
Yeah.
right? I'm wondering this concept of like, can you talk about this? Is there an expectation that you need to love in-laws without any boundaries,
Yeah.
right? Like a selfless kind of love. And where is that idea? Where's that pressure coming from?
Yeah.
Once again, I want to take the idea of unconditional love in other relationships, like off this pedestal. And that just because you don't unconditionally love someone doesn't mean that you don't have such deep love for them
Yes.
and care for them.
What
And I
we
think,
want you to have is standards.
yeah, standards and like boundaries for yourself,
Yeah.
right? You will have such an ability to have deep love for someone
Mhm.
if you have those boundaries for yourself. So I think so often, because we put unconditional love on a pedestal, we think that if we don't have that, it must mean we don't love them or that
Yeah.
something's wrong with that really. No, it actually, you can have such deep connected love when you have boundaries, when you have standards, it allows you to be part of the relationship. So I would take the unconditional love off of the pedestal in these other relationships.
Yeah. Somebody has said, I'm estranged from family due to abuse. Is it unrealistic to want unconditional love from friends? Let me say this. It's not unrealistic. Of course. Of course, you want unrealistic love, but it may be unfair.
Yeah.
It may be unfair and a setup for failure to have those expectations from friends.
Yeah.
But what I hear you saying is, I desperately need chosen family, and you should absolutely fucking get that. And also, just so you know, it's not unrealistic or fucked up or wrong to still want your family to love you,
Yeah.
no matter what. Anyone's like, oh, well, I should know better. This is who my parents are. Wanting your parents to love you unconditionally is human.
Yes.
It's not stupid.
I think this is such a good question too, because I think when we don't receive a level of unconditional love from our parents in the ways that we needed it, we so often look for it in other relationships as
Mhm.
adults. And because of that, we end up feeling really disappointed that we aren't getting this unconditional love from those other relationships. Because once again, your other relationships are supposed to have boundaries, they're supposed to have conditions. It does not mean that those other relationships, you can't have this deep connected love. But I would ask yourself, what wounds do I need to heal within myself from not getting that unconditional love from a parent so that I'm not expecting this unconditional love from friends because you are bound to be disappointed. And what you don't want is to create separation in your friendships, separation in your romantic relationships because you're expecting something that they are unable to give to
Mhm.
you. And so, go
Mhm.
ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please, my love.
I had nothing. I was just gonna, I had nothing
Well,
else.
we have to get to one more because we have a really long
Yes.
Dear Em and Jen. And
Yes.
since I'm the one who looks at things 5 years in advance, wasn't sure
Yes.
if you knew.
Perfect. No,
Um,
did not know.
so last question. How do you navigate I love you but don't like you family relationships? And I think this is a very important thing for us to touch on as we come up on our upcoming political season that I know everyone is just fucking thrilled for us to fucking white knuckle through. Last thing I want to do is go through another Trump and Biden election, and here we are.
How do you navigate I love you but don't like you family relationships?
Boundaries.
That is exactly. I had one word in my head and I was like, I don't know how else to expand on this. All I have is boundaries.
Yeah.
All
So
I have is boundaries because your ability to stay connected to this person is going to require your boundaries.
mhm.
It's going to require for you to take care of yourself. Definitely does not require unconditional love.
Yeah. Okay, you ready?
I'm so ready.
Dear Emma and Jen, thank you for creating such an incredible therapy practice and podcast. Listening to your podcast has helped me grow and change my perspective in many ways. You are truly saving lives each and every day. I wanted to ask for some advice regarding my relationship with my mom. Throughout my adult years, I have learned to distance myself from what I realize now is an extremely enmeshed family dynamic. My mom has taken it very personally that I move far away from home and makes comments all the time about me moving back, despite me coming home to visit often and expressing to her that I am not moving back. And I'm actually really proud for embarking on my own adventure and setting new roots for myself. I know her comments come from a good place because she is protective and worries about me being so far away. But I also had a feeling that she may hold some frustration over the fact that she has lost control she once had over my life and personal decisions. It took me moving away from home and creating my own life over the last 10 years to really see the dynamic from an outside perspective and learn to stand my ground through healthy communications and boundaries while also expressing my love and appreciation for her. Through therapy, I have learned to practice vulnerability and have opened up to my mom about my anxiety and depression. More recently, I have even mentioned to her that my mental health struggles likely stem from being a closet neurodivergent my whole life. Side note, I would love if you would do a future podcast episode about what it means to be neurodivergent. And I'm currently reading Unmasked by Ellie Middleton, which has been an extremely helpful resource for me. All right, great. We'll have to check it out. We will do that. There are many moments there are moments where my mom is open-minded and willing to listen, and other times where she seems to put up a wall by arguing or being passive aggressive when I try to communicate with her. It's like our relationship keeps taking one step forward and two steps back. The most challenging thing for me is when she starts conversations like, I never know what to bring up with you in case it causes you anxiety, or I don't know if I should say this, but hope these comments are coming from a good place. And what she is meaning to say is that she cares about me and is worried about what she is about to say. But the way it comes out is always very backhanded and insulting. It feels as if she is weaponizing my anxiety and uses it against me, if that makes sense. But it is also very subtle that I don't know how to approach these comments. Because of my slow processing time, I often come up with the right thing to say a day, week, or a year later. But it is really challenging to come up with responses to these types of remarks in the moment. How do you suggest I handle these moments so I help her realize how she's coming off without totally offending her? I often find that having a script ready is helpful because I never know what to say in the moment. Any help and advice for navigating this is much appreciated. Thanks again for all you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really want to, first of all, this question is so direct that it like is really helpful to like look at
All the context.
all the
So much
context.
context. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. We love
Thank you. No, it's
context.
so helpful. I don't know if I should say this, but I think right. Um,
So
the
mom's
first
walking on eggshells and it makes her feel shitty.
right, which makes a lot of sense,
Yes.
right? So, one of the things I would say is that I think expressing to mom, yes, I have anxiety. And here's how you can approach things with me, right? For you to really lay out if mom needs to say something, here's the way that she can say it that would be really helpful for me to hear. And you could say that exactly in that way to her. Um, I think it's really important, especially because first I want to give you so many props on being able to create a level of differentiation with your mom by separating and really working through this dynamic. That is really hard to do when there's been a level of enmeshment your whole life, when you've lived close together. And so it sounds like both you and mom are adjusting to this new dynamic. And sometimes that takes a lot of time. It sounds to me like you are so conscious of the change in the dynamic and also what you needed to do to take care of yourself in order to change your relationship with her. Um, and so I think what it sounds like is happening is your relationship is going through this period of adjustment. Mom might be really struggling with the separation herself. And because of that, it's coming out as kind of this passive aggressive tone. Um, which brings up something for you. You feel mom walking on eggshells, and it's bringing up something for you, which is completely understandable.
Yeah.
So I would say to mom, if you want to bring things up this way, it would be really helpful for you to bring it up in this way.
Yeah. Um, Okay, I have this other theory, this other
Tell
thing
me.
I want to say before we end. This person is such a fucking badass and changed the
Yes.
entire dynamic of their relationship. But what you need to remember is you wanted this change, mom didn't.
Yes.
So it's going to take some time for her to adjust, and she might have a lot of feelings around that. And those feelings might be pissed off, frustrated, annoyed. Here's the thing, she still gets to feel those, and you can't do anything about it. You know this is a better thing for you, but for her, she didn't actually get a choice here. When people do not have autonomy and decisions, they often act out inappropriately. You can have to choose to put a firewall up when that happens. So the firewall is, oh, my mom said something passive aggressive. This comment was made. I have to choose to not give a shit because either way, I did the right fucking thing for me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Shrink Chicks.
We'll see you back here next week for another session.
In the meantime, if you want a question answered or a topic discussed, follow us on Instagram at ShrinkChicks. And if you're looking to get connected with a therapist like us to start or continue your therapeutic journey, visit thetherapygroup.com. Just fill out a contact form on our website, and we will personally match you with one of our amazing therapists. And for all of our therapists and group practice owners out there, we also offer group practice consulting.
And if you're looking to support yourself further and support our show, check out our amazing merch options at shrinkchicks.com/merch and our Know Yourself, Grow Yourself journal on Amazon. Also, if you'd be so kind, we'd love a rating, review, and for you to share with a friend or an enemy or a mother-in-law, honestly, whoever needs it, so that we can keep reaching more people on our mission to bring mental health topics to your ears every week.
Thanks for being here with us. And don't forget to grow yourself. You got to know yourself.